The project commenced on October 16, 2021, and is in its third year of implementation. ITMOB Philippines is supported and funded by the DOSTP card. Throughout its implementation, significant accomplishments have been made, and despite several challenges, the project team, composed of a pool of experts ranging from graduate students, early career researchers, and academicians, remains determined to achieve its goals. The project is currently on track to provide positive results in identifying climate-resilient pathways that offer effective adaptation options under the changing climate, demography, and land cover. Moreover, as the project promotes and emphasizes co-learning, co-development, and co-management, partnerships with academic institutions located within or adjacent to the project sites will be vital in providing sustainability and building long-term learning sites for students to conduct their research. In the end, this action research for development model could advance science-based and multi-stakeholder anticipatory planning and decision-making at the local level to optimize the socio-economic gains of varying combinations of bioproduction systems while minimizing ecological and environmental losses in the process.
Science and evidence-based, community-driven, and future-focused. This is INREM G60 webinar series, where evidence meets experience in the natural resources and environment management. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us from across the globe. We are thrilled to have you here to the first installment of our INREM G60 webinar series. I am Luella Catujo, your host for this afternoon. And as you settle in, we'd love to know more of you. Why don't you share the location from where you are joining? And we are actually curious. What are your thoughts and expectations to this INREM 360? Okay, let's see. Where are you joining us from? Okay, as of now, we have 66 participants. I wonder where you are joining us. Okay, we have participants from Laguna. Thank you so much for being with us. Wow, we have someone from Bael, Laguna as well. Let's see. Oh, we have from Negros Occidental. It's so great to have you here. Oh, we have someone from Diliman, Quezon City. Okay, from Cainta Rizal as well. So we are actually curious, what are your thoughts and expectations to this INREM 360? From Bael, Laguna. Wow. This diverse participation reflects the very essence of today's webinar. Cross-boundary, integrative, and inclusive dialogue for a sustainable future. Before we start, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the work package leaders of the integration of traditional and modern bioproduction systems for Sustainable and Resilient Future under Climate and Ecosystem Change, or ITMOB project. We have here Dr. Canesio Predo, Dr. Isa Sahise, Dr. Cristino Tiburan, and Dr. Rex Victor Cruz. We also have their partner organizations, and among them are the LGU representatives from the provinces of Laguna and La Union. Thank you so much for being with us. And for the information of everyone, we actually had a trivia game before our program. So we encourage you next time to join us earlier to catch some exciting prizes. Thank you all for being such great sports earlier. And for the winners, kindly send your GCash numbers via private message to Miss Jersey Evangelista here on Zoom. To briefly introduce us, the UPLB Interdisciplinary Studies Center for Integrated Natural Resources and Environment Management, or UPLB-INREM, was established to advance research, development, and extension, or public service programs that promote sustainability in natural resources management while balancing environmental protection and economic development. As part of its efforts to mainstream integrated natural resources and environment management, or INREM principles and practices, the UPLB-INREM conducts the INREM 360 webinar series. The webinar series aims to highlight its research projects, initiatives by its Technical Working Group, or TWG members, and emerging issues in environment and natural resources management. This is aligned with the UPLB-INREM's mission to develop science-based solutions, influence policy reform, foster interdisciplinary collaborations, and strengthen public education and extension. So brace yourselves in the coming months as we will learn more about the center's initiatives in ecosystem landscape-based approaches, policy governance and institutional reforms, emerging issues and innovation in INREM, stakeholder engagement and public participation, and lastly, on One Health, Environment, and Sustainability. And what a perfect time to launch the INREM 360 webinar series. The UPLB-INREM is actually celebrating a major milestone, the second anniversary of its institutionalization as an affiliate hub of the UP Resilience Institute. Today's event is one of the highlights of the center's anniversary celebration. To officially open our session and highlight the crucial role of having this dialogue, we are honored to hear a welcome message from our esteemed Chancellor, Dr. Jose V. Camacho Jr.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the pilot episode of the INREM 360 webinar series, organized by our very own Interdisciplinary Study Center for Integrated Natural Resources and Environment, or INREM. INREM 360 is not just a series of webinars. It is, in many ways, the beginning of a larger conversation. A conversation that brings together science, policy, and practice, guided by the vision of a more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive future. And through this series, we aim to take a 360-degree view of natural resources and environment management. One that is holistic, interdisciplinary, and deeply rooted in both academic rigor and real-world relevance. UPLB-INREM stands at the intersection of innovation and impact. Since its establishment, it has committed itself to advancing research, development, and public service, which promote sustainability while balancing the needs of people, ecosystems, and economists. With INREM 360, we are creating a platform to showcase this work, featuring not only UPLB-INREM's pioneering projects, but also the insights and efforts of our dedicated technical working group members and their partners. The theme of our inaugural session, Future-Proofing Bioproduction Systems, the Role of Nature Futures Framework, is both timely and urgent. As we navigate the complexities of climate change, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation, we need frameworks like the Nature Futures Framework that offer transformative pathways forward. We are fortunate to have Dr. Osamu Saito with us today from the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies in Japan to help set the tone for what the INREM 360 series hopes to accomplish. Dr. Saito is a global thought leader and an esteemed partner of UPLB-INREM in the international project Integration of Traditional and Modern Bioproduction Systems for a Sustainable, Resilient Future under Climate and Ecosystems Changes. To our colleagues from the UP Resilience Institute, our international partners, faculty, students, stakeholders, and guests, thank you for joining us today. Your presence affirms that integrated science-based and collaborative action is not only necessary, it is possible. As we launch INREM 360, in celebration of UPLB INREM's anniversary month, may this initiative serve as a reminder of the powerful role we play together in shaping the future of our natural resources and the communities that depend on them. Let us listen. Let us learn. Let us lead. Welcome to INREM 360 webinar series.
Thank you, Chancellor Camacho, and we are deeply grateful for all your support to the Center's initiatives. And to ground today's webinar within our broader institutional goals, let us hear from our very own Dr. Juan M. Pulhin, Director of the UPLB-INREM.
Thank you very much, Wella, and good afternoon to everyone. Konnichiwa to our keynote speaker, Dr. Osamu Saito-san, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Following the inspiring message of Chancellor Jose B. Camacho Jr., which underscores UPLB's unwavering commitment to interdisciplinary collaboration and public service, allow me to further situate today's event by briefly sharing the journey of UPLB-INREM, how it began, how it has evolved through time, and how it continues to advance integrated natural resource and environment management as a vital pathway for sustainable development and resilience. In 2007, the University of the Philippines Los Baños established the Interdisciplinary Program on Integrated Natural Resources and Environment Management, or UPLB-INREM, through Administrative Order Number 69, Series of 2007, and this is actually in response to the growing challenges posed by environmental and natural resources degradation. Recognizing the need to further strengthen interdisciplinary initiatives, the Office of the Chancellor issued Administrative Order Number 140, Series of 2013, that was 6 years after that, formally renaming the program as the UPLB Interdisciplinary Study Center for Integrated Natural Resources and Environment Management, of which now we are which is popularly known as the UPLB-INREM. From our humble beginning in 2013, we have implemented numerous research, development, and extension projects through internal and external funding. We have built strong partnerships with international and national academic and research institutions, as well as national and local government units, state universities, and community partners around the country and even internationally. Our initiatives as an interdisciplinary unit of UPLB have come a long way since its year of inception. These accomplishments became the impetus for our institutionalization as a center and an affiliate hub of the UP Resilience Institute, which was formally recognized 2 years ago, specifically on April 3, 2023, by the UP Board of Regents. As we celebrate this milestone, we reaffirm our commitment to advancing INREM's approach to address today's emerging environmental challenges and to contribute meaningfully to the national and global sustainable development goals. Since 2013, UPLB-INREM has implemented more than 20 RDE projects, generating more than 102 million pesos from an initial 1 million peso seed fund provided on that year. We have also successfully organized 1 national, 2 regional, and 4 international INREM conferences in 2017, 2019, 2021, and 2023, the 5th one of which is scheduled this coming November. We have also published 6 INREM special issues in Web of Science index journals such as Silvatrope in 2017, Journal of Environmental Science and Management in 2014 and 2017, Philippine Agricultural Scientist in 2020, and the Science and Engineering Journal in 2021 and 2023. In relation to this, we have published more than 48 journal articles under these INREM special issues and 8 additional journal articles published in reputable international journals, all contributing to advancing the body of knowledge of integrated natural resource and environment management. We have likewise published several project briefs under the projects that we implemented, particularly through the DOSTP card, built the institutional capacity of at least 10 state universities and colleges in the Philippines, as well as at least 31 municipalities across 18 provinces, at least 8 provinces. We have likewise provided technical assistance to various government agencies, non-government organizations, as well as private sector and the local communities. Established likewise linkages with at least 11 local and 11 international organizations and networks, as well as 19 foreign universities and research institutions. We are also happy to note that we have mentored at least 25 young professionals, 4 PhD students, 4 MS students, and 5 BS students, and provided early career employment opportunities to close to 20 UP graduates. Today marks a very meaningful occasion for UPLB-INREM. It is no coincidence that we officially launched the INREM 360 webinar series We also celebrate the anniversary month of INREM's institutionalization as an affiliate hub of the UP Resilience Institute. With this, we are happy to officially launch the INREM 360 webinar series. This initiative is envisioned as a venue for academic exchange and dynamic platform to disseminate UPLB-INREM's research outputs, educate and engage the broader public on integrated natural resources and environment management issues, inform evidence-based policy and institutional reforms, and foster interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary collaboration across sectors and discipline. More importantly, I sincerely hope that INREM 360 will serve as a mechanism for consolidating insights and feedback from our partners and stakeholders, ensuring that our research programs, development projects, and public service initiatives remain deeply grounded on the actual needs, aspirations, and realities of the communities we work with. Science, after all, must not exist in isolation. It must be shaped, challenged, and enriched by those we seek to empower. Before I end, I would like to express our deepest appreciation to our keynote speaker, Dr. Osamu Saito, the Principal Policy Researcher at the Institute of Global Environmental Strategies, or IGES, at the same time a visiting professor at the University of Tokyo and a managing editor of Sustainability Science, a very high-impact scientific journal, for graciously joining us today. We look forward to listening to his talk, which I'm sure will provide timely and critical guidance as UPLB-INREM charts pathways towards more resilient and sustainable bioproduction systems in the face of climate and ecosystem changes. To our participants, we welcome your feedback and suggestions. Please let us know if there are any INREM-related issues you would like us to tackle in the future sessions, or if you wish to engage with us in ongoing and future initiatives and partnerships. Thank you, everyone, for supporting the launch of INREM 360. May this webinar series inspire greater collaboration, deeper understanding, and renewed commitment to safeguarding our environment for the generations to come. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sir John, for sharing with us the journey of the UPLB-INREM. The center indeed has a humble beginning, but its growth has been an inspiration to all of us as we all pursue a climate resilient and sustainable future. Before we proceed, let us do a quick pulse check. Kindly give a thumbs up emoticon if you have encountered Nature Features Framework, or NFF, even before the webinar. Let's see who's already familiar with the NFF. Oh, someone gave a thumbs up emoticon. Great, I think all of us could learn a lot from today's topic. Also, we would like to request our participants to please turn on your cameras for a quick photo opportunity that will be guided by Ms. Marielle.
All right. Since we have a large group, I'll be taking 4 screenshots. Kindly turn on your cameras. Okay. I'll be taking the first screen. 1, 2, 3. The next. 1, 2, 3. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. The last. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Marielle, and thank you so much for all the bright smiles. A few reminders as you listen, please make sure that your microphones are muted, and feel free as well to drop your questions or send your reactions in the chat box. And if you are watching via live stream, please use the hashtag INREM360 and hashtag NatureFeaturesLive. For a more INREM 360 vibe, please use the INREM 360 Zoom background found in the chat box. Kindly rename your accounts as follows: your name underscore the institution where you are affiliated with. Thank you so much. To kick off our session, I am delighted to introduce to you our speaker for the topic entitled Future-Proofing Bioproduction Systems, the Role of the Nature Futures Framework. Our speaker currently serves as the principal policy researcher at the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, or IGES, in Kanagawa, Japan. His expertise includes biodiversity and ecosystem services, and he has been working on the interlinkages between ecological, human, and social systems through the sustainable science approaches. His research experiences include socio-ecological studies on the ecosystem services provided by traditional rural production landscapes in both Japan and other Asian countries. He is one of the lead researchers for the ITMOB project, a collaborative research initiative across 3 countries. He also served as the academic director at the United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study for Sustainability from 2011 to 2020. Meanwhile, he is actively promoting key initiatives under the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, contributing to regional, global, and nexus assessments. In addition to his research and advocacy work, he has served as a managing editor for the Sustainability Science Journal, published by Springer since 2011. Partners, without further ado, let us welcome Dr. Osamu Saito.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and very glad to see some familiar faces. So let me share my screen. Okay. Make it. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, pa.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to thank organizer to inviting me this important kind of kickoff launching event of the webinar. And then this is, I would like to talk about the Nature Futures Framework. I think some of you already know about this, frameworks, but I will start from the kind of background information and how it's created. And then I move on to some of the case studies using Nature Futures Framework, both in Japan and also Philippines. And in the end, I would also like to share our policy recommendations developed by the ITMO project. So first of all, I think that the video already explained about IPBES. So IPBES is Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, which was established in 2012. So more than 13 years ago, it was established, and now the number of the member is over 150. So this one is a slight old, but yeah, now it's the member state is 150. And secretary is located in Bonn, Germany. And as you see in the bottom diagram, there is 4 different component. The research, so which is like in UP, and also my research institute, IGES is a part of the located as a research institutions. And when it comes to assessment, the famous one is IPCC's assessment, and also the IPBES has also conducted the regular assessment at the global scale and the regional scale, and also thematic assessment have been conducted. So already more than 10 assessment reports has been approved by IPBES plenary. And I've been involved in the three assessment, Asia Pacific regional assessment, and then also the global assessment. And recently, we just finished the Nexus assessment, which was approved last year. And you see that these research and assessment contribute to the both observation and also the policy formulation and implementation. Especially in case of the biodiversity, we are also heavily involved of the CBD Convention of the Biological Diversity. And this is for key functions of IPBES. So IPBES provide not only the assessment, but also the providing policy support and also the knowledge generation. There is three key functions. And in addition to three key functions, providing capacity building using the policy support, assessment, and knowledge generation through all those three activities, IPBES also provide capacity building opportunities, not only for the young early career researchers, but also the other type of the practitioners and also other the educations and also the senior experts too. And these are the assessments being already completed. And as I mentioned, I've been involved in these the red highlighted assessments, especially the Asia Pacific one and the global one, and recently the Nexus assessment. And there is a ongoing assessment this year, no, next year, early next year, the new assessment report will be approved, which is biodiversity and business assessment. So the collaboration with business is also important agenda, and also the many business sectors is also interested in to improving their business activities to make nature positive. So this is also quite important topic which we also explore in the future as a new research agenda, how to enhance collaboration between the business across different business sectors, and also the collaboration between the business sector and academia to improve the biodiversity challenges. And then let me briefly explain what is scenarios. So scenarios are kind of useful tools. It's about futures, but since the future is uncertain and very complex, we need to create different type of scenarios to prepare for the future changes. So not only for the climate change, but also the ecosystem change, we need to prepare different scenarios to prepare the different type of the policy options, policy tools to accommodate unexpected events and also the unexpected changes in the future. So that's why the scenario and also the modeling is quite important, the tools for academia, not only for academia, but also the policymakers. So that's why the IPBES created this thematic methodological assessment on scenarios models in 2019. This report itself was published in 2017, so. Sorry, 16. So this diagram indicate scenario can be used for the different the policy process. So at the designing phase, it can be used as the target seeking scenarios. But at the same time, in the phase of the implementation, scenario can be used as a policy screening scenarios. And also the scenario can be used for the agenda setting. So exploratory scenarios can be used for the agenda settings. And last component, scenario can be also used for the review process of the policy. So retrospective policy evaluation is also another kind of the function of scenario. across the different the policy phases. This diagram is the IPES conceptual framework. As you can see in the right-hand side, uh, you can see the indirect drivers, which is institutional change and the governance change and the people's values changes. These are indirect drivers. And also the demographic change can be also the part of the indirect drivers, which affect direct drivers like climate change and also the exploitation of the natural resources. These are and also land use changes. These are the direct drivers, and direct driver affect change in the nature and biodiversity. And the change in biodiversity and nature or also affect nature's benefit to people or nature's contribution to people, and which eventually affect a good quality of life, the people's well-being. So this is the building blocks of the IPBES assessment. So this conceptual framework is always used to formulate the IPBES report, assessment report. But these slides also indicate how we can locate scenario and models in the context of this conceptual frameworks. So scenario will provide some kind of the assumptions or settings for indirect drivers and direct drivers. And then models can be located between indirect direct drivers, or model can be located between direct drivers and nature or biodiversity and ecosystems. And also another type of models, like invest models, can be located between the ecosystem services or nature's contribution to people and nature. So the different type of the models can be also located in this conceptual framework. And then but in this methodological assessment of scenarios and models, they identify the key gaps, which is developing flexible and adaptable suite of the multi-scale scenarios, especially tailored to the objective of IPES. So at the year of the 2016, there was no biodiversity centric scenarios framework. So that's why, and we often use IPCC climate study produced scenarios like representative emission scenarios and also the shared socioeconomic pathways. So these are all developed by the climate science communities. And we didn't have the biodiversity-centric or nature-centric scenario frameworks. So this is the one of the key gaps identified by the IPBES methodological assessment in 2016. So afterwards, the completion of the methodological assessment, the IPES scientific group, especially the task force members of scenario and models, started discussion how to build new scenario frameworks so that they can also contribute to the ongoing global and regional assessment at that time. So they organized a series of workshops to formulate a new framework. And in 2017 in Auckland, they organized very big workshop with 75 workshop participants from 31 countries, and they formulate different type of the future scenarios, these diagrams, setting the scenes and also constructing scenarios, skeletons, and the fleshing out narratives and the comparison of the different future visions. And they came up with 7 different type of future scenarios as the nature futures. So type marine, culture, food production, uh, and also the water, urban prosperity, and the nature dynamics. So these are 7 different type of the scenarios, And then, so this is one of the output produced from this 2017's workshop in Auckland, New Zealand. And then in 2018, in Netherlands, they organized another workshop to try to understand the different 7 producer scenarios to and try to kind of clustering different type of scenarios using this x-axis is a body of nature upper diagram, and the y-axis is management of nature, and also they use a different type of the space for values, or they use try and error. They use different type of the axis to understand to characterize 7 scenarios. And then finally, they came up with this triangle framework, which is called Nature's Futures Framework. So which characterized by 3 heading of the triangle. So the top one is nature for nature, which emphasize intrinsic value of nature. And then the left hand in the left, you can find the nature as culture, which emphasize the relation value or living in harmony with nature or one with nature. So these are the more emphasized traditional values of nature and also the relation value of nature. And then on the right hand side, you see the nature for society, which emphasize the intrinsic value of nature. So try to maximize the benefit provided from the nature, so like maximizing ecosystem services. So these are the 3 kind of the extreme kind of pillar of the triangle. And then using this triangle, they created the future visions and the scenarios like this. And then they also try to come up with additional the type of the scenarios by using this triangle the framework. So actually that when we have the photo session, like this webinar event, the mostly that they use the hand shape of the triangle when we take photo. So maybe in the end of this session, maybe you can also have another photo session by indicating this in a hand triangle in the end, maybe. Then this one is more the kind of formal explanation of the nature features framework. I think I don't need to explain again, but this is quite flexible tools which can be used at the different scales, at national scale, the regional scale, and local scale. So there are more and more case studies produced using this nature features framework. So I will explain later about the case study from Philippines. So this is a kind of origin and the meaning of the nature futures framework. I hope that if you have any further questions, maybe I can, we can also discuss in the end. But the idea is that not only we're seeking nature for nature or nature as culture and the nature of society, not this is quite kind of simple and extreme kind of future pathway, but we can also consider the future visions in between nature for nature and the nature as culture, or in between or balancing nature as culture and the nature of society. So these 3 future scenarios is a simplified version, but when we customize or we apply this one at the different scales, we also consider the local context and customize and reinterpret these values. So even for nature, the value of nature may be different depending on the area. And also nature as culture is different depending on the places. So different type of culture will be considered at the local scale. And nature for society may also uh, require technological innovations, like including like expanding renewable energies and other technology and ICT tools, or even AI. So how we can explore, improve the productivity or agricultural yield by using the modern technologies. Those can be also explored under the nature for society scenarios. But at the same time, we can also explore what's the in between nature for nature and nature for society, and which is the best scenarios or uh, appropriate or desirable features for the local the people on the ground. So these tools can help to expand the people's visions beyond business as usuals and try to capture the different values. So otherwise, our thinking is just remain close to the nature as cultures, as a kind of with the business as usual in case of the very traditional the communities, and then do not consider much about nature for nature or nature for society. So in that case, how we can, go beyond this nature as cultures perspectives and how we can change our mindset to beyond the current the perspectives. So this is also help you to expand your mindset to capture the different potential the policy options or the actions to be taken to overcome the future challenges. This is a bit the specific interpretation of the nature for uh, nature features framework in the context of marine and rural and urban context. Of course, this is a simplified version. You can also modify this one to meet local context. But this is some of the representative kind of tables. I think I don't have much time to go into detail one by one, but these narratives is already available, and this is the Pereira et al. 2020 also use this nature features framework to apply the different context. So this will be also quite useful the document or articles you should read to apply nature features framework at a specific local context. And this is also another example of the illustrative the interpretation of nature features framework. So the upper three diagram indicate the urban landscape, nature for nature, nature as culture, and the nature for society. And the bottom three diagram indicate the rural landscape interpretation of the nature features framework. Of course, this should be modified, updated to understand, to interpret the Philippines case. But this is one of the kind of examples to the visualization of the nature features framework. And last one is about the ocean landscapes interpretation of the nature features framework. So as you see in the nature for nature, you don't see much the people, but there are more aquaculture will be introduced. At the same time, the more the marine organisms, marine creature will be protected by expanding protected area. But in the case of the nature's cultures, you can see the traditional the collection of the catchment of the seafood and also the seaweed, etc., and utilize at the local scale. And then when it comes to the nature for societies, there are more the genus, the utilization from the marine ecosystems, and also the using people enjoyed like fishing, and then also it will be cooked for the sustainable way and also catched by the sustainable way and provided to the retail stores and restaurants by using the sustainable the fishery certificate. So these are the examples of the interpretation of the nature features framework, but more and more visualization needed to understand the local context. This is another examples of the interpretation of the nature features frameworks. So as I already mentioned, there's three representative, corner, nature for nature, nature as culture, and the nature for society. But at the same time, we can also consider the in between of those the extreme future scenarios. So balancing NN and NC, balancing NN and NS, and balancing NC and NS. So these also this type of the balancing future scenarios is also the quite this triangle can provide also this in between scenarios. And by using these 6 visions or 6 scenarios, these articles, which was published the 2021, Kim et al., this provide the narratives of these 6 future scenarios, the global narratives. So this will be also quite useful to understand the nature of each 6 vision. So I also highly recommend to go through these articles to understand the nature features framework. And this is the table of the included in this in this article in Kim et al. 2021, which indicate which named 6 scenarios or 6 visions. And then they're also providing very simple the narrative and storyline and also keywords. Again, I'm not going to detail one by one, but this kind of the simple storyline and narratives will help you understand the utilization or application of the nature features framework at your study site or the place that you are interested in. And this nature features framework can also help the modeling. So first, the nature features framework can provide kind of narratives. And based on the narratives, we can also provide some quantitative assumption of the changes of the future. And by using such quantitative assumptions, settings, like how we expand the protected area. So according to the global biodiversity framework, we are supposed to expand the protected area by 30% by 2030. So if we also achieve this target, then what will happen to land use changes at the local scale? So if your study site has only 10% protected area, then you have to convert 20% other land use to the protected area. So then what will happen? Are we losing agricultural land because of that? Or how we can mobilize other protected areas from other land uses? So these are some of the challenges can be identified, and then it can be modeled through the land use modelings. And through the land use modeling, it will also affect ecosystem services provision. So these using nature features framework narratives, it can also provide the modeling indicators parameter settings. So this is also the one of the application of nature features framework. And also nature features framework can help identify different type of the indicators required for the different the scenarios for nature, maybe the pollination service is quite important, but when it comes to the nature for society, uh, maybe different type of the indicator could be important. So nature for nature, the size of the habitat area will be very important, but for nature for or societies scenarios, more ecosystem service provision or ecosystem service diversity will be important. But when it comes to the nature as cultures, maybe the nitrogen fixation, the other type of the cultural services could be more important. So depending on the future scenarios, we can also identify the different indicators. And in that context, I will also introduce some of the case study from Japan about how the nature futures framework can also help setting new indicators. And there are the methodological guidance also approved by the IPES plenary. And the latest one is that the July 2013 version is also available, and you can download from the IPES website. So this is the nature features frameworks, a flexible tool to support development scenarios, models of desirable future for people, nature, and Mother Earth, and its methodological guidance. So this document summarized the historical development of the nature features framework and also providing methodological guidance. And also the task force member of the methodological scenario and model, IPES scenario models, and we've been working to updating this methodological guidance. And the new methodological guidance will be submitted this year and will be approved next year. So once it will be updated, I will also share that information. But the latest version in 2013 is already available on the website. So now I would like to move on to the case study in Japan. So in 2012, 2022, we developed these articles by using Nature Futures framework in one of the study sites in Japan, located in northern Japan, Hokkaido. So you see there is a special rare species all is located. It's a kind of symbolic bird in Hokkaido. So we also considering this protecting all is one of the key indicator for nature for nature. At the same time, this area is famous for livestock production and oyster farming. So we also consider those local industries. And at the same time, because net zero for the climate is also quite important. So expanding renewable energy is also important component for the scenario setting in the future. So this area, as I mentioned, located in the northern part of Japan, the Hokkaido island, and then the pasture and the dairy farming is the major industry, also as well as the oyster farming. And this is the watershed is called the Bekambushi River wetland. So in this is a land use. So deciduous forest conifers, deciduous conifers located in the orange. So its major forest component is deciduous conifer, and also there are evergreen conifer also located, and the green patch is pasture. So there, as you see, there a lot of pasture area exist. And open water is downstream on it's used for the oyster, mainly used for the oyster farming. And we identify the common indicators for three scenarios. So even regardless any type of scenarios we created, we use these four indicator as a common the indicators to show the value of nature. First one is landscape structure. Second one is regulating ecosystem services, net ecosystem production, and biomass production, and diversity of the plant species. So these four indicators used as a common indicator for three scenarios: nature for nature, nature society, and nature as culture. But at the same time, we set the different indicator for each nature features framework. So for nature, we set this habitat suitability for rare birds and also native tree species biomass. So these two indicators used for nature. And yield of agriculture and forestry and energy production is used for the nature for society scenario. And for nature as culture, we use three different indicators, which is supporting identities, learning, and inspiration, physical, psychological experiences, and regulation of the water quality for fishery. And more specific indicators explanation you can find on the right-hand side. So using, of course, these are the difficult part for us is that the setting the indicator for nature as culture. We can come up with more direct indicators, but there's no measurement. It's also sometimes quantification is quite difficult. So we use some of the proxy indicators to represent, which may represent identity and learning. We use like a proportion of the natural landscape within the viewshed in residential area and rows. So these are proxy indicators which we can quantify. But it may not, necessarily directly measuring identity and learning and inspiration. So it's a bit, difficult part for us. But in order for the quantification, we selected these kind of proxy indicators for most of the cultural, nature as culture indicators. So this is the difficult part and which need to be improved in the future. But anyway, using those different indicators, we run the simulation. And before run the simulation, we also set management strategies for forest and pasture. So for forest area, we consider either it's abundant or selective cutting. And we use the rotation cycle is a normal or long rotation. We're using broadleaf forest or the hardwood or natural regeneration. So we consider the different type of the management options of forest. At the same time, we also consider pasture abandonment or pasture conversion to the renewable energy. So no abandonment of the pasture, but if half abandonment of the pasture because of the depopulation. So the area is also suffering rapid population decrease. This is quite common in Japan, especially in the rural area. We are losing rural populations. So we do not need to maintain the same amount of pasture in the future. So not just abandon the pasture, we introduce solar PV at those abandoned areas. And then also consider to which percentage we use the abundant pasture land. So we set a different the forest management patterns and also the pasture management pattern that we came up with in total 110 possible landscape management strategies. And then we using Landis 2 models, which is a forest landscape succession models considering life history and competition of the ecological process and also considered the seed dispersal and disturbance and the management. And the Landis 2 can provide succession over the up to 2010. And this is a case the result of the 110 cases. So the left-hand side indicate the common indicators behavior of the 110 cases, and you see that there are some the positive changes, but you can also find the negative changes. So not all the 110 cases do not indicate the not always provide the nature positive outcomes. And in case of the commons, out of the 110, only 51 cases provide nature positive outcomes. So these blue line indicate the nature positive cases in the future up to 2010, to 2100, sorry. And this is a land use changes over the three different scenarios up to 2000, year 2100. So actually this is changing. You can see the land use, land cover changes depending on the different type of the future nature for nature, nature for society, and nature as culture. Okay, so then this is another case study in Philippines. With this article has been just accepted a few days ago, actually, and it will be published in maybe next week or in few weeks. This will be officially published. But this ITMO project, Philippine members and also the project members from Japan, the Philippines worked very hard to develop this study, localizing vision of desirable future, applying the nature futures framework to Barro watershed in Philippines. So this study applies NFF to integrate diverse value perspective on nature into the sustainable watershed management. And we used kind of systematic the process, including the stakeholders workshop. Maybe I don't need to explain about Barora watershed, but these are some of the key bioproduction system of the watershed and also sub-district of the watershed. And you see the upstream and midterm and downstream the photos. So first our Philippine team members conducted key informant interviews and did the literature survey. And afterwards, we organized 2 days expert online workshop in 2023. And then so at the first stage, we didn't use nature features framework explicitly. They did try to understand some of the key key bioproduction systems and also the key drivers of change and what kind of impacts those drivers provide in the study area or Barrow watershed. So at the first stage, we didn't use nature features framework, but we introduced nature features framework at the second step by organizing expert workshop, online workshop, and after during this workshop, we identify some of the key interventions needed, required for each nature for nature, nature for society, nature as culture, and nature for society. And based on the second step workshop, the Philippine team also work on the stakeholder workshop and then try to develop the common visions by the stakeholders and suggestion on barriers and enablers and align, and afterwards it try to align with nature futures framework. And this is the stakeholders workshops kind of structure and process. So the first one is try to identify perception of the benefit values derived from the watershed. And second one is challenges and opportunities. And then the formulation of the common visions and the common vision alignment through nature features framework, and then the possible the pathway to achieve desired visions. So what kind of actions, enablers, and barriers, and also opportunities identify to reach nature features three visions or scenarios or perspectives. This is based on the key informant interviews and also the literature survey and also the discussions. We identified the indirect drivers, including socio-economic change, institutional governance change, and demographic change, including the rising population, unregulated sprawl, the waste disposal, etc., is included as a key the indirect drivers. And of course, the socioeconomic change, including unregulated mitigation, unemployment, land ownership, disparities, increasing cost of labor, etc., is included as indirect drivers. And then the key direct driver is climate change and land use, land cover changes, including urbanization. And the challenges are summarized like this, like intensive agriculture operations, limited access to the technology and agriculture machinery, inadequate irrigation systems, increased production of high-value crops. So these are the identified key challenges. And then we came up using nature features framework. We came up with the three kind of narratives to meet the nature for nature on the top, and on the left, nature as culture, and on the right is the nature for society. So for nature of nature, the sustainable forest production and restoration is important, especially to achieve the 30 by 30, expanding protected area, and also, and then for the nature's culture, traditional ecological knowledge and practices is quite important. And then for nature for society, sustainable farming practices and judicious growth in the build-up area is important agenda. And this is named as the kind of vision or scenarios in this way. And based on this key storyline of each three scenarios, we also tabulated the body perspective, institutional required institution and governance, and the capacity and awareness, and other considerations. So these are the summary of the three scenarios in case of the bottled watershed. And you can see that there is a different the institutions governance are required to achieve these three perspectives. And also the capacity will be also different. Capacity, different type of capacity is required. So these are the key point to identify the kind of new policies and the new policy recommendations to meet three different future scenarios. So let me conclude my presentation by touching upon briefly about our policy brief, which summarize policy recommendation from the ITMO project for the last 3 years. So after the 3 years completion of the ITMO project, we also spent another nearly 1 year to produce this policy brief by using a different project budget we set aside from Japan side. So, and it was just published in last February. So I think we can also share this information. I think I couldn't share with our partners yet, but today is the first, I guess, the first time to share the final version. But anyway, this is also downloadable. I will share later. But this is based on the 3 years project for in 3 countries, not only Japan and the Philippines, but also the Indonesia. So yeah, these are the photo from study sites, and this is the integrated the diagram which summarize 4 major uh, policy recommendations. So first one is eco-integrated bioproduction systems, which also promoting monitoring, the active management, finance incentive, and the participative plannings. And part B is about enhancing synergy between the ecosystem services, which contain the localized management plans, promote sustainable land use, conservation and restoration. And the component C, the key recommendation is a nature desirable based future, which is related to implementing nature futures frameworks. So research and promotion, capacity building, public awareness, and integrate into in policy and planning. And the last component of the last policy recommendation component is a cross-country collaboration and the capacity development, which include continue supporting e-Asia collaborative researches and establish a community of practice and support young researchers. And you can find more detail, the recommendation in the following slides, but due to time constraint, I'm not going to detail one by one, but this policy brief contain all those recommendations with some additional explanation and also some of the key evidence we created from our publication or peer-reviewed publications mainly. So which our research, publication support which recommendation, those are the clearly indicated in this policy brief. So A and B is about ecosystem services, localized participatory management, promote sustainable land use, enhance conservation restoration effort. And this policy brief also contained specific examples from 3 countries. So you can find more clear examples. In Japan, the crystal ibis is the once endangered species in Sado Island, and which reintroduced to Japan with eco-friendly farming activities. So those examples also included in this policy brief. In Philippines, the tiger grass utilization is also highlighted in this policy brief. In the case of Indonesia, stingless honeybee is one of the representative examples for the new kind of integrating traditional and modern technologies and production systems. And in the last component is a cross-country collaboration, importance of the cross-country collaboration such as e-Asia. So we emphasize the importance of the community of practice, nature futures framework, and also this kind of the collaborative research, and also the encouraging the support of the young researchers. So these are some of the key highlighted the policy recommendation. So what's the next? So we're still working on the case studies of the nature features frameworks. And this, frameworks is quite flexible, but at the same time, we need to avoid the kind of optimization at the small scale. So the optimization at one place may has a negative impact outside of that study areas. So that kind of the feedbacks, indirect drivers, consideration, these are some of the still the key challenges for us. And especially when it comes to the modeling, how to consider the impacts outside of the watershed. So of course we can consider the impacts within the watershed, but how it's affect outside of the watershed. These issues has not been discussed in the previous case study in Barrow watershed. So these input output from Barrow watershed, those are some of the key the new research agenda in the future. But anyway, we are our journal, Sesame Science, also providing special feature operationalizing nature features framework, collecting more than 12 articles. 12 articles already published, and the two or three more articles will be publishing pretty soon, including Barolo Watershed, the case study. So this special feature will also help you to understand how NFF can be applied at a different context. And then using this opportunity, I also share this information. So in June 23rd, 27th, Ecosystem Service Partnership organized World Conference, and I proposed the kind of propose a new session on the nature features framework. It already the call for abstract is already closed, but we received more than 13 the abstract, and I selected those, and then we will implement this one. But those who are interested in participating, yeah, please consider the joining this conference. I think I'm gonna stop here now. Thank you very much for these opportunities, and I look forward to hearing your feedbacks and comments and questions. Thank you very much.
Indeed, an immensely rich discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Saito. And now it's your turn. Let us open the space for your questions and insights, whether you're a student, a policymaker, a faculty, a researcher, or a fellow enthusiast. Your voice really matters. May I call Ms. Regine Javier, item of technical staff, to facilitate us in our open forum. Take it away, Ms. Reg.
Thank you very much, Miss Wella. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir John. And thank you also, Dr. Saito, for that very informative presentation. And like Wella said, now we open the floor for questions, comments, or reflections. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand using the Zoom function, and please wait to be recognized. You may also type your questions in the chat box. Just a few reminders before we begin. Before you ask your question, kindly state your name and organization. And also, please keep the discussion respectful and focused. Now, is there anyone who would like to begin? Who would like to ask the first question? Is there anyone from our 98 participants? Wow. Very good outcome for the first INREM 360 webinar series. I'll give you a bit more time to put your thoughts together to ask your question. So maybe I'll go ahead and get the ball rolling. Maybe I can ask the first question. Dr. Saito, since I'm part of the ITMO project, we are well aware of the benefits and the advantages of using the NFF framework in developing scenarios. But I wanted to hear your thoughts and your experiences. What are the key challenges you've experienced in implementing the NFF approach on resource management? And can you please share how were you able to overcome those challenges?
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a bit abstract, concept like nature for nature, emphasize the intrinsic values. So what is really the intrinsic value for each study site is different, and also this is quite abstract, and then what is the meaning of nature in your study site is kind of philosophical questions, and it's a quite difficult, and they also may be different depending on the person who attending the workshop or etc. So that part, and also the what is the relational values? Relational values is also the kind of relatively new concept emerged in the last 10 years. But actually, there is not many studies about relational values. There is increasingly, but quantifying relational values is also quite challenging. So how to really understand clearly about these different value settings is also quite challenging. Nature for society may be a bit easy. It's more like focusing on the intrinsic values or kind of tangible values provided from nature, like in agriculture, fishery, and forestry production. So it's more like clear. But when it comes to cultures, the nature's culture, which emphasize cultural services or recreational values, or how the people affiliated with nature. These things is a bit abstract. Of course, the indigenous people's perception is quite important, and the IPES also emphasize importance of it. But still, it's so diverse, and the different indicators and the different interpretation it will be possible. So that interpretation of nature for nature and nature's culture is bit challenging. But yeah, at the beginning, it's a bit difficult. But as the workshop goes on, the people is becoming to get used to this kind of concept. And yeah, in the end, we didn't find much difficulty. But at the beginning, it was quite challenging to how to how to make it easy understandable of this nature for nature and nature's culture. And people that take it granted that the nature's culture is so embedded in their culture and their discourse. So they don't sometimes they do not really understand the actual real value of their culture and the racial values produced by the local landscapes and seascapes. So these are also another challenges. But so the outsiders uh, having some of the outsiders, not local, but also not only the local residents, but also some of the like visitors or tourists or the young youth or some different type of the stakeholders will help to notice the actual value of the such kind of embedded value of the nature. So that's having outsider from the workshop at the workshop is also the one of the way to overcome such kind of the challenges.
Thank you, there, Dr. Saito. That was going to be my follow-up question about involving stakeholders, but you already answered it. And good thing also because we have a question from the chat box. It's from Hannah, a researcher from UP Los Baños, and she is wondering what makes the NFF unique and more advantageous than other frameworks or approaches in natural resource and land use management. Dr. Saito?
Sorry.
It's on the chat box, but I'll see the
Oh,
question
okay.
again.
No.
The question is, what makes the NFF unique and more advantageous than other frameworks or approaches?
But other approaches is like a socio-economic shared pathway is SSP from the climate change is used at the degree of the mitigation and adaptation, and these are SSP does not consider about nature and the nature's values. So of course it's consider the climate mitigation and adaptation. For that purpose, it's fine, but this does not consider how the people utilize, or protect or restore nature is completely missing. So as to my knowledge, we don't have the clear the kind of existing framework which is equitable to the NFF, which try to articulate the relationship between nature and people. So this is the advantage using nature for NFF, Nature Futures Framework, but of course it is too nature centric, only looking at the relationship between nature and people. So it does not really clearly highlight anything about climate change, but actually in theory, in each NFF scenarios, NN or NS or NC, each scenario need to achieve all SDGs, including climate targets. So, but the way to achieve will be different depending on the nature of nature or nature's culture, nature of society. But this sphere of the scenario should within achieving all 17 SDG goals. So that's also the precondition of the NFF.
Thank you again, Dr. Saito, and I hope, Hannah, that answers your question. And feel free to drop any follow-up questions in the chat box. Dr. Saito, we have another question from Tony. She's also a researcher from UPLB, and she thanks you for the informative presentation. She is asking, in agricultural landscapes facing increasing pressures from climate change and food security demands, how can the NFF be applied to mediate trade-offs and synergies between productivity, biodiversity conversation, and cultural landscape values across different stakeholder groups? How do you find balance between results of NFF if there is a huge distinction between the three perspectives?
Yeah, so that's why we also suggest, as part of my presentation, we also I introduced it in the balancing between NN and NS, and the balancing between NN and NC, and balancing between NC and NS. So we are not, I'm not, NFF does not, restrict to the three directions, NN and NS and NC. You can also consider in between the balancing to the pillars of the triangle. So that's you can also use.
I think that's one of the common misconceptions about the NFF, is that you need to choose, right,
Yeah,
along the path of the three sides, that,
yeah,
you have to choose between nature and between culture and between society. So that's, I think, one misconception that, should be explained should you decide to use it.
right,
Um,
exactly.
thank, thank you for that great question, Tony. Is there anyone else who would like to ask their question? I think, do we have viewers from Zoom who also put in their questions or comments? Hmm. I th- is there anyone? Should we wait a few more seconds?
Raise hand, I guess.
The we have a raised hand in Zoom. I think it's Dr. John Pulhin would like to ask a question. Sir John, please feel free to open your mic and your camera.
No, thank you so much. It's actually not a question, but I wish to join the conversation in terms of the challenges based on our own experience, and also probably in response to the some of the earlier questions. So in terms of challenges, Dr. Saito has already mentioned that it's a new concept. That's why in the Baroro case study that he has presented, we did not right away started with NFF, no, because we let the different, especially so that our approach was participatory, multi-stakeholder, and so we want them to appreciate the different challenges and so on. That's why in you would notice that it's only after some time that we introduce the Nature's Future Framework. Also, we conducted a survey in terms of which inclination are the different stakeholders are leaning to in terms of the Nature Futures framework. And that was quite helpful for us later in engaging them in terms of defining visions and so on. And then we locate the vision that they have generated for 2050 in relation to the Nature's Futures framework. But I think in the broader context of the challenge, I see that one of the key challenges also is the issue of representation. From whose perspective will the, I mean, whose voices or from which stakeholders should shape what inclination would be more dominant among the three, no? And so I was just thinking, if we change, for instance, and because what we did was really a combination of science-based, we do modeling, so that partly informs, but at the same time, we also engage stakeholders. But I was just thinking that in the case of the Baroro, the nature for culture really surface out because we have a good representation of the indigenous communities, no? But if you change that, even though indeed in the watershed, a good number of stakeholders are IPs, but indigenous people, but had we missed them, probably the story could have been different, no? And so I think consciousness in terms of the facilitator, if you are facilitating the process, no, the issue of representation would be of crucial importance because at times those whose voice are louder would be able probably to dominate the process and therefore shape the nature of framework that a group will have to be pursued, no? So representation is really a key issue that we have identified. And I also like very much the discussion of Prof. Saito in terms of probably potential trade-offs across scale. Because at times, if you deal with a very localized scale, then the story may be different, no? Compared to, in a way, let's say, if you go to a regional and national level, then essentially the story will be different. But I think the beauty of NFF is that it enables you to think. It enables you, as rightly pointed out by Dr. Saito, it enables you to reflect and analyze and see the different options, no? And not only focusing, because the more common one, as rightly pointed out, is nature for society, because in a becoming highly utilitarian society that we are pursuing, then that's one thing that people would usually appreciate, no, and can relate with. But I think less appreciated is the nature for culture, no, and nature as culture, and more recently, nature for nature is also becoming an important consideration nowadays, no? So I think my overall reflections in terms of the question of Hannah, when in terms of which framework, I think the good news for me is while we have the framework of IPCC on climate development pathways, its focus is really on minimizing risks you have to pursue a less risk development pathway. But if you look at the sixth assessment report of IPCC, there is a strong convergence, I believe, on the integration of nature and society. And so I think there will be a good enrichment and cross-fertilization of both frameworks that IPCC and IPBES are using. And I think in the future, each one will be enriching each other. And I think each one will be influencing and shaping one another. But it's good to look at these frameworks at the same time, probably localize them, look at their application, and they are really quite useful tool for analysis and planning, and also, of course, an output of scientific investigation. But again, I think that understanding and appreciating and potentially getting the most of the different framework would be uh, interesting and would be useful as a pathway in the near future. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sir John, for those insights. Dr. Saito, perhaps you would want to respond or to add to those comments? Dr. Saito? If it's okay, we can move on to the next question, sir, if you don't have any further comments on those insights from Sir John. Is there anyone else? Let me check. Oh, okay. We have another raised hand from Wella, from our host, from our wonderful host earlier. Wella, please feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Good afternoon, Dr. Saito. My question is actually touched a little bit by Dr. John earlier, but I'm interested, since ITMOB was conducted in 3 different countries, what are the main differences in the results from these countries in terms of the application of NFF, and how do these results unravel the adaptive capacity and inclusive nature of NFF? And moving forward, how can others use as well the NFF in their respective countries? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, but still it's quite difficult. In Philippines, it went pretty well, I think, because of the very hard work for the young researchers, but and also the leadership of Professor Profin. So I think it went quite well, but yeah, it's not the same at the 3 countries actually. So in case of the Indonesia, we couldn't develop the NFA-based scenarios. We did some of the quantification of the different ecosystem services, but we couldn't develop kind of nature NF-based future scenarios in Indonesia. Of course, we organize expert workshop, and based on the expert workshop, we also created some sort of the narratives for Indonesia study site, but it was not consulted with the local stakeholders. So it's only discussed within the expert, which also quite useful, even though it is only based on the researchers, but it was not tested on the ground. So, and one of the limitation was that still also their uptake of the NFF was slightly different from the in case of the Philippines. So yeah, I mean, mobilization of the each country's researchers at the same level is quite the difficulty, even though we conducted, 3 countries collaborative research, but the extent of the, participation, extent of the eagerness to, their expand their study, kind of the perspectives, and also that their, business as usual, study, you know, it's quite difficult to get out from their comfortable zone, So using new tools is sometimes it's not easy, and they want to stay in their own methodologies, their familiar methodologies or framework, but using, get beyond the existing models and accept a new framework is sometimes it's not an easy task. So these are still, and the 3 years project is quite brief, and also due to the COVID, we couldn't have much in-person communication and interaction, unfortunately. So those are some of the limitations we also experience. But now I think that it's becoming more easy, and also the using online tools and etc. I think that we can also further enhance our research activities in Indonesia at this point. But in like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it was not that easy, and then that was one of the limitations I experienced in the past 3 years. Yeah.
Thank you, Wella, and thank you, Dr. Saito. It's 4:14, so I think that's all the time we have for questions for the open forum. Thank you again, everyone, and to all our participants. If you have further questions or you want to discuss further, please feel free to contact us on our Facebook page or send an email to the INREM email address. So back to you, Wella.
Thank you, Ms. Reg. And actually, I am privileged to join the latter activities of the ITIMA project in the Philippines. And what I appreciate is the direct involvement of the LGUs. Their voice are really heard even during the report back. So hopefully we can see the transformation that the NFF could bring to our society and to our environment. Again, thank you, Ms. Reg, and thank you so much to our very active participants and to Dr. Saito and Dr. Pulkin as well. At this point, we would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speaker. On behalf of the UPLB-INREM, we are honored to present this certificate of recognition to Dr. Osamu Saito for sharing his invaluable knowledge and expertise during his presentation titled Future-Proofing Bioproduction Systems, the Role of the Nature Features Framework, and for serving as the inaugural resource person of the INREM 360 webinar series organized by the UPLB-INREM on the 30th of April 2025. Signed by Dr. Juan M. Pulhin, Founding Director of the UPLB-INREM, and Dr. Jose V. Camacho Jr., Chancellor of the UPLB. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Saito, for being an important part of today's success. And we hope for more collaborations with you in the future.
Thank you very much.
So we are nearing the end of today's session, but this is just the beginning of our ongoing journey towards sustainability through INREM 360. To give us the closing remarks, let us hear the reflections from the Honorable Dean of the College of Forestry and Natural Resources, Dr. Marlo Mendoza.
Thank you very much, Maluela. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. We have now come to the end of our seminar. So on behalf of the College of Forestry and Natural Resources, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Osamu Saito for his engaging and informative presentation. Our sincere thanks as well to the 100 participants who joined and supported the seminar. Of course, our congratulations also to UPLB-INREM for the successful launch of the INREM 360 webinar series. Special commendation goes to the dedicated and competent INREM staff under the exemplary leadership of academician Dr. Jan Pulhin. This initiative is a timely and necessary platform for advancing our shared vision of a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive future. Today's launch is much more than just the beginning of UPLB-INREM's webinar series. It is, in fact, a milestone. It signals the mainstreaming of the INREM approach as a guiding framework for addressing the increasingly complex and interconnected challenges we face, from climate change and land degradation to biodiversity loss and food insecurity. These are not isolated issues, and INREM reminds us that neither should our responses be. We in the College of Forestry and Natural Resources are proud to stand alongside UPLB-INREM in the advocacy. Our partnership reflects a firm commitment to integrated, science-based, and people-centered approaches in natural resource and environmental management. Through this collaboration, we reaffirm our role as stewards of our environment, working across disciplines and institutions to safeguard our forests, watersheds, and ecosystems for generations to come. I am hopeful that INREM 360 will serve as a powerful platform, not only for knowledge sharing, but for amplifying the critical work being done by UPLB-INREM and its partners in research, policy, and community engagement. May this series inspire more collaboration, more innovation, and more action. Maraming salamat, and I look forward to the many meaningful conversations and partnerships that INREM 360 will continue to spark. Mabuhay sa mga tagapangasiwa ng kalikasan.
Thank you, Dean Mardo, for your profound and timely message. Your presence means so much to us. Before we sign off, you can download our resources through the link in the chat box. And since this is the first installment of the INREM 360, we'd really appreciate